Welcome to the morning drive. Time to get the day off to a good start, I hope. Hopefully you guys are wide awake this morning, or having a good morning or a good evening, depending where you're at. But it's a little after 6 here, about quarter after 6. Doing the morning drive again and just trying to make sure that I get today off to a good start without a ticket, hopefully. Oh man, I had a great night last night. You guys were fantastic. I want to say thanks for stopping in and making it kind of fun, to where the more people we get in chat, the more things we can talk about. I will tell you, after I got off, I ended up, I didn't go to sleep until 3:30. So just about maybe 2.5 hours ago, I just could not sleep. I spent the rest of my night working on the Streamlabs software that we were talking about in the chat. It's just I'm trying to get it to where I can switch that platform again. So before I looked up, and all of a sudden it was 3:30 in the morning, and I just went, yeah. So I laid down for a little while and got back up to start the day off. So we're going to go ahead. I'll swing by McDonald's, get my morning caffeine going, and we'll say hi to Mallory, because I'm sure she's working. She said she works every day but Monday. So we'll see if we can sneak in and say hi. Otherwise, hopefully your day's going to go great. I'm looking forward to getting my day over quick. I've got a couple more things I've got to do in my lab to get the rest of the systems up. I've got them now where they're all connected fine. I just got to get the image pushed out to them. I use Semantic Ghost to push my images, so hopefully I can get all that configured today and start kind of fresh on Thursday. I told you guys last night I was going to watch the State of the Union address. No, didn't even get a chance to. So I have no idea. I'll probably watch it this afternoon. I'm just curious to what he had to say about anything. And, of course, I also want to hear what the Democrats have to say in response. But I really was going to turn it on right after I logged off that stream. Started getting busy on other things, though. So, anyway. I'm trying to think of what was the... I got another email last night. And it was, I will say that... it pointed out some things that I didn't know, that now, you ever have somebody point something out to you, and now every time it stands out? And that's exactly, I got an email last night from somebody very nice. They're like, I love it, I like they actually like having floating topics where we just talk about pretty much anything that comes up. But the suggestion was made last night to kind of do some show prep, finding some things in the news and that, which I absolutely agree with. I want to do that, but one of the things that this person pointed out to me was like, they could tell that I'm used to, like, as a teacher, I get up and I spend a lot of time in front of a classroom, and I'm very animated when I'm standing up and I'm walking around, and apparently, see, just like what I'm doing now, I talk with my hands. He says, you can tell that I'm a teacher because I tend to talk and gesture with my hands, during the show. And they were laughing about it, going, it's just, who did they say? I guess there's somebody else on television that does that a lot, that when they talk, they'll gesture with their hands. And but I never noticed I did that much until it was pointed out in his email last night. And I was like, oh God, now I'm going to be self-conscious of, see, look, I'm doing it already. I'm going to start being self-conscious of that. Hold on one sec, guys. Well, good morning. Could I get a Diet Coke? And that's all.
107 ice window, please.
Awesome. Thank you. Sounded like Mallory. We'll see if it is. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that doesn't bother you guys that I gesture a lot. But they're right. I'm more animated when I get up and I'm speaking in front of a classroom or a boardroom or whatever. I move around a lot. Good morning.
107.
Thank you. Warming up for you. So you got your coat off.
Oh, it's right there.
Oh.
The heater's on.
I got you.
When I'm working in the kitchen, I always take it off because I don't want to get, I don't want it to
Too
get
hot.
anything.
Yeah. Well, it's not too bad today, you know. It's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad yet, but after being about an hour or so, this window will be up,
It'll be cold.
Yeah.
Have a nice day. Hold on. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Say hi, guys.
How y'all doing? Do you ever have like where you add someone to a video chat?
Yeah, you know. Oh, yeah. Actually, they get on when they're I'm live streaming like
Yeah.
tonight at 7 o'clock. When I stream live, everybody gets on chat and starts chatting,
Okay.
and then
What, like you video chat at your house and everything like that?
yeah, if you go to like I don't know if you go
just
to
talk about relevant things.
yeah, pretty much anything.
Yeah.
If you go to YouTube, the channel's called POV America.
Okay.
So POV America is kind of, and we talk about anything and everything.
And do you have like you just have live videos, or do you have your older live videos?
I have older ones too, and I have all
So I might
kinds
be
of.
on there.
There you go. Tonight you might be on.
Alright, I got you. I'll check it out.
All right, we'll see you. Maybe we can add her to our chat list of people that jump in, and people can talk. And holy moly, and there is giant crater. I'm gonna have to go around this. Yeah, that's one thing here in Florida, man. You've got potholes that just in one day. What do they call them? Sinkholes. Man, these sinkholes will just pop up overnight, and you've got like a 3-foot hole in front of you. So anyway, yeah, I didn't get a chance, as I said, I didn't get a chance to do the, the State of the Union. But when I got off and everything, I was kind of checking emails a little later in the morning, earlier this morning, and I get the email that where it says you're very animated. You talk with your hands, and that's how they knew that I was a teacher, because a lot of teachers or public speakers will gesture and they'll use their hands. And now I'm going to have to sit there and try and I'm going to be self-conscious about using my hands to talk. But it was actually a lot of fun, and I will kind of take a look today in the news, see what I can find that's kind of interesting to me, because I was talking last night, man, I hate talking about politics. At first I liked it, but, the truth of the matter is, there's some things that no matter what you'd say, no matter how, you're always going to be wrong. Somebody's always going to have that other, and they like to jump on and start, how can you think that way, or why do you, and all of a sudden you get in like you've offended somebody, or like you get in some argument about something that's really not worth arguing about. So I do want to try and stay away from, but I mean, I don't mind intelligent conversation, but then don't get me wrong. If you want to talk intelligently about anything political, I'm okay with that. But it's when those emotions start coming out, and usually the emotions are on my part sometimes when I see stupidity in politics. Then I end up getting a little upset. I'm like, how can you not see that we need a wall? How can you, I have these views that to me are very cut and dry and clear, and to other people, they just want to debate those, and I just don't want to offend anyone. And that's, and for those of you that, last night it was mentioned, I guess on Mixer, because I stream out to a lot of different platforms. Well, Mixer has a policy that you got to watch. You kind of watch your language and your content. You have to be wary of what you're saying and doing and everything, unless you click it's just kind of like Twitch, where you can or even on YouTube, you can click mature audience, I guess it is, or where they actually have to be over 18 to view the channel. And I didn't want that. I mean, because there's a lot of the younger generation. See, I think adults sometimes fail to see that the kids, as they're growing up and they're getting older, they're very intelligent. They have great, insight into things that a lot of times we glance over or we don't see. So I didn't want to limit the viewing of the channel to just adults, and I do, every now and then I do let an F-bomb fly or say something, inappropriate, and I've tried to monitor myself in the past, because I don't usually use the language, even though I work in a prison, I don't use the language at work, and I don't use it at home that much. It's funny, because you'd think that in a prison, you'd kind of use that language to get your point across, but it's just the opposite is true. I'm much more professional when I speak to them. I don't call them inmates, or, I call them by their last name. I call them, Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, Mr. such and such. I grant them a certain degree of respect that most of the time they don't get in prison. The officers don't show them the same respect, so I try to elevate them to a level that they feel while they're in my class it's very professional, and I get a much better response from them. As a teacher, I'm Mr. Johnson, I'm Mr. J. They come to think of me as like a safe haven where they can come learn and not be disrespected. So I don't use that kind of language even to get my point across in education. So I did appreciate it, somebody, and I'm not sure if it was I'm not sure who said it, but it was just kind of reminding me that Mixer kind of watches those types of things, and I appreciate that, because and of course my wife, who was listening in, who always tells me when I ask her, I say, "Were you listening?" She goes, "Oh no, I was busy. I don't usually listen in," but of course she does, and she was listening in and kind of heard that exchange. And as soon as I get off, she's like, "Why are you swearing? Why would you swear on there?" And I was like, "Oh no, gotta listen to that now." But she was just making sure that I stay in line, because that's her job. Oh man. But yeah, I think I guys told you she's got her own live stream that she does on YouTube, or not? It's not a live stream. I think she just I don't know. I have to ask her now. I've watched it a couple times, but I don't believe it's live. I actually think she does them when I'm at work. But she does lottery tickets. She has it's called Sand Scratchers, because she lives on the beach, and she scratches these instant lottery tickets. And I had no idea that was a thing. I really didn't think. But then when I looked at her channel, she's got a couple hundred people already. She just started doing it not too long ago. She's already got a couple hundred people following her and subscribed to her channel. And they send money back and forth. Like, people from Texas will send her money to buy tickets here, and she'll share the winnings with them, and they'll throw the money back and forth through PayPal. And it's just amazing that I guess there's a market for everything. I guess there's a viewing audience for everything. And that one channel I was telling you about, that ASMR, that kind of proves it. The ASMR means, if people will sit and listen to that, I'm a firm believer they'll sit and listen to anything. And and if you caught, I don't know if a lot of you guys caught the last half of the show, or the afternoon drive yesterday. About the last 10 minutes, I got kind of goofy, because I was talking about all the different things when I go to the channels on Twitch, and I just watch these streams, and I watch the people, and there was a lot of things that came out that were kind of funny to me at the time. So like the last 10 minutes of the afternoon drive yesterday, oh my God, I mean, I was just like, I was kind of in this little cloud where I was going, I couldn't make sense out of things, so I started making fun of I won't say drivers, but just channels that I tuned into a few channels that I was watching, and they weren't really doing anything. They were like playing the game, or they were, I don't know if it looked like they were reading, but there was no conversation. And then I actually came across one channel where the guy was sleeping in the chair. He was in the chair and he was sleeping. he was not talking, not engaging. He had his head down, and he was literally sound asleep. And he had over 100 people viewing him. And I had to call my wife over because I knew she wouldn't believe me. And I was like, come here, look at this. And I says, 100 people are watching this guy, and for the last 15 minutes he's been sleeping, and and I said, why would people watch somebody just sitting there sleeping? And my wife turns to me and she goes, why are you watching him sitting there sleeping? And I go, because I can't believe he's on camera just sleeping. And she goes, and there's your answer. And I was like, oh, so everybody else is watching him because they can't believe he's on camera. So, okay, I get it. I was just kind of laughing. But, yeah, I'd never really taken the time to, I go to some of the gaming channels, a lot of the gaming channels to watch and listen to the dialogue. And a lot of them, they've got their headsets on, so they have back and forth conversation with whoever's in their headsets. But I do see that there's a lot of channels out there that are, just kind of whatever they are, and they have a following, and I was a little shocked, but I'm still learning. Being a new streamer, even these afternoon drives and the morning drives, and these are more or less the reason I'm doing these isn't because, see, like right now I can't really engage. I can't engage with anybody and talk and chat. So it's just a live stream going to work or coming home. And really the reason I do these is so I can try and get used to the fact that you're talking to somebody that you can't see, that's not out there. It's kind of like, in a way it's therapeutic because you can kind of talk about whatever's on your mind and get it out. But at the same time it's very strange because even the looks I get when I'm going down the road, and people will look at me, and I'll be gesturing or talking, and you get these strange looks at the stoplight, and you feel like rolling down your window and go, hey, I could be on a Bluetooth headset. You don't know. Don't judge me. Don't judge. You have no idea what's going on in this cab. This is my vehicle. You have no idea what's going on in here. But they see that with all the gestures, and they're like, what's going on with that guy? I'm just waiting for the time the police officer will pull me over and go, sir, are you on any prescription medication? Your hands were flailing and you're going wild in there. Oh, no, officer, I'm fine. And haven't smoked anything in hours, I'm just kidding. But no, I think that, so the whole afternoon and morning drive is more or less just kind of thinking out loud and just trying to get used to the fact that you're talking to an audience. Now, when I had some advice, somebody sent me an email, this is like probably about 2-3 weeks ago, and they said, and he does a stream, he says, when he does a stream, he says what works for him is to not, because you have these little boxes where you can see, now you can't see who's viewing you, but you can see how many people from whatever platform is viewing. You're actually watching your channel. And then the guy says when he was a new streamer and he had just started out, he used to do what I was doing. He used to look and see how many people of each platform were watching, and he says that'll drive you crazy. He says he says basically minimize those boxes. Don't even think, he goes, just assume there's always somebody watching you. Because there's times when there'll be nobody watching. It's depending on what's going on in the world. But there'll be 0, 0, 0 all the way down. And what happens is I'll end up, if I'm in the middle of a conversation or a thought or whatever, when I look and I see zeros like, oh, nobody's watching, I'll just kind of stop. And then I won't say anything, and I'll get on the computer and I'll kind of be clicking around, kind of reading, just like the guys I was talking about that aren't doing anything. But then all of a sudden, I'll see like a 1 come up, or and then it'll go away, and there's a lag. So when I'm talking and what you're seeing is not instantaneous, it's not like true broadcast television. There's always a lag of several seconds. So when somebody logs on and they see me not talking, they'll log back off, and by the time I see them come up and I start talking, they're already logged off. So yeah, he gave me some really good tips. He says, look, just always assume, and then matter of fact, one of you guys last night said the same thing. Always assume someone's watching, and it'll help you to keep going. And I try to do that. I mean, whether I'm driving or now sometimes driving, I notice that I'll be like watching traffic, watching the road, and even though I'm talking, there'll be times where I just stop and I get lost in the moment, and for like a mile or two go by, and then I'll be like, oh, I'm still streaming, and then I try to pick up something where I left off, but I will get kind of lost in thought as I watch traffic, and because I still want to be vigilant there. I don't want to be in an accident because I don't want my insurance to go any higher than it is, and my insurance isn't too bad, but I definitely don't want to get that up. But yeah, I got up this morning and a couple hours sleep, man, and I'm kind of upset. I will tell you guys, that I've been, for those of you that have been watching, I'm trying to lose this weight. I went from 305 down to 278, 277 now this whole Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. I got on the scale and I'm at like 276, and I haven't like went down as much as I went from that 305 to 270, 278 pretty quick. So now I'm kind of hovering right around that 276 mark, and I'm like, well, what am I doing different? And then I started thinking, okay, well, there were some times where I may have deviated a little bit, because I did have some potato chips. I had like 3 or 4 potato chips, which, oh my God, it's forbidden, but they are empty carbs. They're simple carbohydrates, and once you put your body out of ketosis, you stop burning that fat, and I kind of think, okay, well, now I've got to get back into it. And to put yourself into ketosis, you literally eat 20 carbs, about 20 carbs a day. That's the max you can eat. And if you keep at that 20 or below, your body will automatically go into ketosis and start to burn those fat deposits, and now I've got to sit there and put myself back. And then, diet soda doesn't hurt it. It doesn't matter. But the chips do. And then I did have some of these. They have these. Whenever you get a sweet tooth, and if you want a chocolate bar or something, I ended up buying these little. They were Russell Stovers. They were caramels. They're absolutely delicious. If you really need that chocolate fix or whatever, that sweetness, and you're watching your sugar and you're trying to. These little candies, man, are just awesome. However, when I looked at the carbs, the carbs were high in these little candies, even though they're sugar-free. And then if you read, you find out that they're sugar alcohols, which are apparently handled differently in your body than regular sugar. And but I've stopped even eating those because I don't want. The very fact that it says, carbs are higher, even though it's sugar alcohol, I don't want to have that in my system, because I don't know if it's really going to hurt or help my weight loss. Check this out, guys. Let me show you this. Here, flick my camera here. I don't know if you can see that. Right there, that's a Metro PCS store. That's after the hurricane. The hurricane that came, and I look around and I sit here and I think, most of the stuff that was damaged in the hurricane still hasn't been fixed. Most of the trees that were ripped out, and they haven't been fixed. Or not fixed, but hauled away, or chopped down, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I doubt you could fix a tree, but yeah, as I go to work every day, I keep thinking I'll see progress. I'm like, I'll see these businesses being built. I'll see this, and you know what? I don't see it. It's just like a lot of people have taken their insurance money and just bailed, you know. But I mean, there's a lot of buildings just like that that are damaged that just aren't. And then there's some that got no damage. You know, it's weird because you can have two buildings side by side, one that's totally blown away and the other one that doesn't have a scratch on it. And I guess it just has a lot to do how they were built with the hurricane code. But you'll always see, like, there's tons of contractor signs. We've got a guy coming out, I think it's this week or next week. They're putting a new roof on our place, so they're going to put a new roof on the house, and right now we have tarps on it. So it'll be interesting to see how quick. They say it'll be. They can usually get the roof on in just a day or two, and which is amazing to me because it takes me a day or two just to find the tools I would need to do something. But yeah, I'll leave this camera kind of flipped and see if you can point out some of the damage that's done. I'm still amazed, but if you've never been in something like a hurricane, I highly recommend that you never do, because it is not something. To me, not being from Florida originally, I had been in a tornado or two in Michigan, but I'd never really been in a hurricane, and I just kind of thought, you know what, it's just a little wind and a little rain, you know, some water and rain and that. So it kind of lost that novelty to me. It wasn't a big deal, I didn't think. Well, then when you get into a Cat 2, a Cat 3, and then it comes around a Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricane, and you understand the true meaning of terrified, because you're watching the roof of buildings fly off, sides ripped. I mean, it's just all of a sudden. Then what I didn't know that hurricanes spawn tornadoes. So, you know, out at the prison where I worked, they got hit with like 5 tornadoes. But like you can see this, but look at the roof of this building right there. I don't know if you can see it on there, but the roof is just totally ripped off. All the shingles are gone. All these trains, now there's a train track here on the way out. All these train cars. Imagine this, all these train cars you see, imagine them all laying on their side. They were totally blown over. That's how strong these winds were and how these tornadoes actually impacted. You'll see the trees that are all ripped apart, torn apart. I mean, it was really something to see. And to be involved in it, yeah, we were going to ride it out at the house because, you know, I live right on the water, and literally the actual hurricane was coming right. It looked like it was coming right to my front door, and when it was a Cat 2, you know, I looked up Cat 2 hurricanes online, and I read about them, and I watched some video of Cat 2s, and we were going to ride it out. And then it came to a Cat 3, and we were like, yeah, you know what, we'll ride out. We can ride that out, just a little rain and some water. Then when it actually started coming in, and it was a Cat 4, and the roof of my neighbor's house landed 10 feet from my front door. That's when I grabbed my wife and says, get your bag, let's get in the car and go. We got in the car. It was so windy, and I'm flying down the road. The wind was something. The car, you could actually feel it. It was like, it just felt like it was being lifted off the ground. And I was just praying to God. I was like, and I'm doing probably 80, 90 miles an hour, and all the bridges are closed. Now I have to get from where I live to get to like the main. I have to go across 2 bridges, and they were closed. And the bridges are all closed. Well, let me tell you, in a storm, when they say the bridges are closed, there's never anybody just standing there. There's no police making sure that you don't go across the bridge. They're just basically telling you the bridges are closed, probably because they didn't want to get them washed out by the hurricane or anything else. But I will tell you, be the first one to tell you, I flew across both bridges. Nothing stopped me. I went right across them, and we got all the way, probably about, I would say about 30 minutes outside the band, the outer band, when we actually had to stop. And we had to pull over at like a rest stop off the major highway and just kind of hunker down there as everything passed. because as we were driving, trying to get out of it, trees are falling, power lines. I mean, it was kind of like any special, any sci-fi movie you've ever seen where it's like some great disaster's happening, earthquake, or it was unbelievable. And then coming back in, as soon as it went over us, we immediately turned around. The eye passed over us, and now the first band of wind wasn't as bad. The second one was the most devastating. But as it passed over, we got back in the car and we headed back in, and it looked like an atomic bomb went off in some of these cities we passed through. We had to wait. There was huge trees on the major highways. We had to go around them. We had to reroute ourselves through ditches and everything just to try and keep moving forward. So, yeah, it was definitely an experience. So I don't recommend it, and I hate to say it this way, but it was pretty cool. I mean, it was really cool to kind of see that Mother Nature really has way more power than I ever, I just figured tornadoes were kind of like the brunt of everything. But, man, the wind and the rains were like coming like sideways. I mean, they were just like unbelievable. But you can see as I drive, if you look at the camera, you can see how all the trees, all the poles are leaning. They're all like off to the sides, and that's because when it came and ripped through here. Now, if you could see the other side of the road, right now you're just kind of looking at boxcars and trees and that, but on the other side, you'd be able, as a matter of fact, probably on the way home, I'll kind of let you see on the afternoon drive the other side, and you'd be amazed at just how much damage they've done. But I think a lot of these businesses too, they're not rebuilding. And that was one of the things that was on the news the other day here, is many people are just, their houses, their businesses, their whatever the insurance money's giving them, they're literally just saying, okay, whatever. They're taking it and leaving. And there's a lot of folks that right now are trying to, they're trying to buy houses that are damaged. They do the flip where they flip the houses. But I'm going to tell you, there's houses out here that you got to rebuild the whole house. So to me, if you're buying houses to flip and you're not rebuilding that whole house, I don't know if I'd want to buy out here. I mean, everything out here is just kind of ripped to shreds. But they're, just as sure as there's people rebuilding these houses, there's other people just bailing out and moving. Get over here. Anyway, guys, so hopefully your morning's off to a good start. I just figured today will be one of those days where I'll try and kind of put some closure on the week, because when at the end of this week, I want to try and have these guys. Normally, I've got about 20 plus students in my class. I'm about half that right now, but they're bringing the rest of our inmates back to the prison, and as they all get kind of housed and back to normal, my class will start filling back up again. And I want to try and make it to where I have it where they can hit the ground running. And I've been kind of spending a little less time fighting with the things that I should be, and more time focusing on this class, trying to get everything done. But I will tell you now, there are one of the, if there's a such thing as something good that came out of all this, there is some cool things that if you go on Facebook and you look in their marketplace, there's some amazing deals. You'll see people that are like going back up north or moving, and they're like selling their motorcycle. Like I'm actually, there's a couple motorcycles I'm looking at. I missed my bike. I don't. For those of you that don't know, actually, let me flip this back around. Go ahead here. Oop. There we go. But for those of you that don't know, I had a great motorcycle when I was in Arizona, loved it, and I ended up selling it after only a year because I was only riding it about 8 months out of the year, and it gets really hot in Arizona for 4 months, but for 8 months I had the best time with this bike, and I really regret. It was kind of like if you've ever seen the look of a Harley Davidson, the Heritage Softail Classic, with the saddlebags, studded saddlebags, and windshield. Well, that's kind of like what I had. It had a 1800cc engine, very big, because I'm a big guy, and very big, throaty bike, and loved it. And but it wasn't a Harley. It was actually it was a cruiser. It was called was it a cruiser or a touring bike? I think it was a touring bike, but it was a Boulevard. It was by Suzuki, and great. I mean, it was just an amazing bike, and I paid brand new. And I was actually, the day I bought the bike, I was actually signing to finish purchasing. I was buying a Harley. I was buying the Heritage Softail Classic, $24,000, and I was going back home to get some paperwork so I could go back to the dealership and sign for this Harley. And I stopped by this other, it was called Power Now Sports or something like that. But I had stopped by and I saw this other bike. My wife called it to my attention, and she says, that looks exactly like the Harley. So, you get the look that you like. And she says, and it's $9,900. So it was more than 50% of the price of a Harley. And it was a bigger bike, the Harley was I think it was a 1500cc. This one was a 1800, so it was a, more powerful engine. And when I took it for a test ride, way better ride, smoother. Harley was a little rough ride. I mean, it was rougher. So I ended up buying that bike, and I had it for a good year, and it was worst mistake I made was selling the bike. And now I've kind of been spending my time, every now and then I'll look and I'll see because if I can find another nice bike, I would like to buy another motorcycle. And now what I've noticed after the hurricane, people that are moving from Florida, all their bikes are for sale. And I mean, I'm very $800, $1,000, and nice bikes. I mean, really nice. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, oh man, if I can find another bike like what I had, I might actually. Now I see some of them are 800 cc's. I'm looking for at least 12, 15, 1800, something in that, that area. But still, a lot of bikes out there that are great buys. My brother was like, well, you should buy them and then just open up a little dealership and sell the bikes. And I'm going, no desire to do that. Just want my own bike that I can ride. And I always wanted to go to Sturgis and do the ride to Sturgis for their bike. They have a huge bike festival out there, and never got a chance to on mine. So never know. That was one of the things. Before I'm too old, I don't want to sit here and look back and go, well, I remember what I should have done back when, way back when. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to say, hey, man, I bought this new bike and I went out and I rode to Sturgis. I took it to Bike Week in Daytona. I mean, I just want to have some fun with that kind of stuff before I get too old. And I don't know when too old is, but, my wife, she's when we got married, it was funny. She's 12 years older than I am, and when we got married, everybody, my mother, everybody's like, it's not gonna last, because the age difference. And here it is 30 years later, and everybody's like, well, never. They just, my mom and dad, they passed away years ago, but it was funny because after it took them, I'll tell you, it took them about 3 years before they finally realized that, it wasn't going to be something that we were going to be divorced in 5 years. And a lot of folks make jokes about, your mother-in-law or your father-in-law. But let me tell you, I look back now, this is years later. My mom died. She had stage 4 small cell lung cancer. And every day, or not every day, but when she had her appointments for chemo and that, my wife took her to like almost every single chemo appointment that she needed to go to and that. And and if I couldn't go, because if I could go, I went. But the thing is, there was never that. Just I will say, for a very short period of time, you kind of didn't know how mom and the new wife would actually see eye to eye on anything. But probably after the first 3 to 4 years, it was really evident that my mom accepted my wife, even though she was older. Because you got to remember, I was still her baby at that time. I was barely old enough to drink a beer when I got married, and so my mom was probably a little apprehensive about that, but she warmed up to it. So did my dad. They loved my wife, and my wife, thought the best of them, and it was. But I don't know if you've ever lost a parent or somebody that had died of cancer, and I'll tell you, when my mom passed away, I still to this day believe that if she would not have taken these cancer drugs, she would have been probably living another 10 years. But I watched her go from literally 150 pounds down to 80 pounds soaking wet, and she just, because these treatment drugs that they were giving for cancer just wither your body away, wither your mind away. It's a horrible thing. And it's not the cancer doing it, it's the drugs. The cancer was actually, they had x-rays from a year before, and the cancer was so slow moving. And they were like, oh, we've got to treat this aggressively, we got to do this. And my mom at that time was 65 years old. And I kept telling her, Mom, look, it's about quality of life. Right now, you're not in pain. You don't have any of these major symptoms of the cancer. And you can see that it's a slow-moving cancer. And it's been, just last year, you can see it really hasn't done too much of anything. So do you really want to risk all this medicine that they're going to give you? But the doctors insisted, and, that was kind of the one thing after... Within a year, she was gone. I mean, it withered her away to nothing. I don't want to talk about that. That's a little bit way too deep, especially for a morning. Coming up to work, guys. Appreciate if you hung with me this morning. I appreciate you listening to me kind of ramble and think out loud. If you could do me a favor, jump over to twitch.com or twitch.tv, I think it's called. And do me a favor and follow me on there, so Twitch likes me to get the followers I need before they'll open up some level. Well, let me show you these. Hold on, see if I can flick this camera here. I don't know if you can see. Well, anyway, I was going to show you how they're actually, all these warehouses here, they're starting to repair those. But anyway, guys, if you can, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Follow me if you can. I'll see you this afternoon at about 3:15, 3:30-ish. I'll do the afternoon drive. Then I'll see you tonight at 7. I'm going to probably lose you for a minute or so here once I go past the Coke factory here. So be patient with me, and I'll see you in the parking lot in a sec. But do me a favor, guys, if you can, jump on whenever you get a chance. Love talking to you, and I appreciate all your feedback. I appreciate everything you guys do to help make the channel better. So thank you again for everything. I'll probably lose you in about 3 seconds or 4 seconds. I'm going in front of this Coke place, and this is where it usually happens, right here. So all right, back to normal for a second. Maybe not. Alright guys, I'm here and it's time to start my day. Hopefully you have a great day. Like I said, I'll do that selfless promotion every morning and try and get you guys to follow me on Twitch and that. Excuse me. Excuse me. Anyway, I'll see you this afternoon. I'll definitely see you tonight. And I'm going to work on my OBS stream. I'll work on that, the overlays. I'm trying to kind of redo that. So the software package I use, I'm just not happy with. So I'll be going back to Streamlabs. You might see a little difference in the channels, but otherwise everything else will be the same. And I get to see what's in the news today, and I'll watch that presidential State of the Union address. I know a lot of you guys that are on Mixer and that, you're in like the Netherlands, or you're in Germany or Australia or the UK, you know. So I definitely will try not to get too political here with the US stuff, because I'm sure you care about as much of what happens here in the US as, you know, I care what happens in China, I guess. I don't know. Unless you're really into politics, I guess that works. All right, guys, have a great morning and have a great day or evening wherever you're at, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have one.